will bring it to my doorstep promptly. My wristwatch is broken, it reads what my pastimes have cost me. Deprive me of oxygen slowly, I'll think more like you, they will soon come to know me. I dream of such afternoons, valedictorians, whitewater rafting the rapids of Oregon. Revenue generators are thoroughly splashed by the waves of awakening iconoclasts. I will not attach strings, I cannot but melodically follow my instincts towards my autonomy. Glad I'm not a Kennedy, despite the nice amenities. I couldn't walk my Pomeranian without security ahead of me. Privacy is held in high regard, I'm old enough to understand a picket fence around the yard. When the main vein softens and arteries harden, I'll own a geodesic dome and a vegetable garden.
Feel the lightning inside.
Everyone's got the lightning. Do you intend to use it? Feel it inside. Daddy don't mind. Benjamin Franklin use it.
Once you unlock the power, nothing is gonna stop you. Feel it inside, mama don't mind. Let the high voltage rock you.
Are you tired, boys and girls? Told you not to overwork yourself. Yeah, I don't want to work it.
I've got the lightning inside. That kind of power can harm. You know it won't be denied. This lightning's making me whole. Feel the lightning inside. Feel the lightning inside. Feel the lightning inside.
Everyone's got the lightning. Do you intend to use it? Feel it inside. Daddy don't mind. Benjamin Franklin use it.
Once you unlock the power, nothing is gonna stop you. Feel it inside, mama don't mind. Let the high voltage rock you.
Simple as that. Baby.
All right, welcome back everybody to The House List. What's up, party people in the place to be? My name is Peter Agostin. I'm your host and the producer of this podcast called The House List. It's sort of like the guest list. It's based off the guest list. It's called The House List. And I'm here. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania right now. Wearing my Phipps t-shirt. I went there on Easter Sunday with my girlfriend and her mom. It was great. Beautiful flowers. And I had, I was able to record an interview that will hopefully, well, it will be, it's not hopefully, be a two-part episode. This is part 1 of my Grand Buffet episode. Yes, Grand Buffet. Many people, hopefully if you're tuning in, then you know this group. If you're not, then we had an incredible conversation, a very deep and involved, cool conversation with my man Jackson, aka Grapeadon, Iguanodon. It's kind of hard because Mrs. Paintbrush of Grand Buffet. Yes, Grand Buffet again. Maybe you forgot about him. It's been a while since they put a record out, put an album out. Maybe been a while since you've seen him play. But for a period of time, they were extremely prolific. And it was of this period of time that was kind of like before quote-unquote smartphones. And cameras weren't advanced yet. And people were still using MySpace and Friendster. And George W. Bush reigned supreme. And these guys were at the top of their game. Incredible satirists that I was immediately fell in love with the first time I saw them live, which was playing with Wesley Willis, the late great Wesley Willis, whom we talk about in our conversation. So again, this is my two-part show about the group, the duo, Grand Buffet. First part being with Jackson, the fiery redhead ginger lead MC of the group, springing, bounding from the stage left to right. And I was so thrilled to be able to talk to him and see him. I hadn't seen the guy in a long time, and I always thought he was great. I thought he was super cool. I mean, these guys crashed on my couch and my floor when I lived in California. They were probably at their most prolific touring-wise from around like maybe 2000, 2001 up through like, the late 2000s. It's kind of hard to say because I know they still occasionally do shows. But I wanted to talk about the history and the legacy of Grand Buffet. And it was a little tricky, but I was able to get one of them. I still haven't recorded the second one, but I guess by next episode, we'll see whether or not I've posted the second story, which will be with Lord Grunge, the counterpart to Great Badon, a.k.a. Jackson, Mrs. Paintbrush. So, yeah, if you're like a fan or familiar with Grand Buffet, then this is absolutely going to be a big treat for you because they haven't done long-form interviews probably in a long time, if ever. And I tracked them down, and just yesterday I recorded this one that we're about to get into in the Polish Hill segment of Pittsburgh. I've been all over this city, and I got a lot of love and respect for this place. I've been here a bunch of times. In fact, my very first time was coming here in like 2002 with my friend, the rapper MC Z-Man from San Francisco, California. We came out and performed with Grand Buffet for a special like album release party. And it's funny because Greg Gillis was at that show, aka Girl Talk. And when we were walking down the street yesterday to record our conversation, out walks Greg from his house. And we sat and talked to Greg, aka Girl Talk, and it was cool. It was a cool conversation about what Jackson has coming up. We were talking about some studio stuff, some analog keyboards and MIDI shit and this, that, and the third. And then we went and had this amazing conversation I'm about to play for you. So, yeah, I hope you dig it. I opened the show with one of my favorite songs from these guys, and I know it became like a later staple of the group too. So, and then I'm going to close the episode with something from Jackson's solo outputs, which is Mrs. Paintbrush era type stuff. But what else? What else can I say here? Oh, yeah. If this is your first time tuning in to The House List, it's a weekly podcast about friends of mine in the music industry, artists, writers, journalists, publicists, people in the industry and stuff like that. It's very free form. There's no rules. I don't really try to do one thing or the other. I just want to put out an episode once a week. So whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I'm very happy to be able to do something for Grand Buffet, which is one of my favorite groups, one of my favorite live shows. I think that there probably wouldn't be a Tim and Eric or Eric Andre if these guys hadn't have, bear the brunt of a lot of that type of sort of comedic parody, satire, music stuff on stage. Them, and of course Neil Hamburger, and even my friend JP of Plesiosaur, JP Inc. But anyway, I don't want to get too tangential here. But if this is your first time, please subscribe on iTunes, rate it on iTunes. House List Podcast, that's how it reads on iTunes. Just be like, boom, I liked it. Yada, yada, yada. It's dope, man. And then send it to somebody. If you listen to a podcast on a desktop computer, you can find it on SoundCloud.com/HouseListPodcast. Retweet it, repost it there. I'm on Twitter as @HouseList. That's @HouseListPod. I'm so bad at this, but yes, it's @HouseListPod. I'm gonna stop saying that now. So yeah, just please spread the word. It's a DIY thing, and I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys appreciate this and the efforts I went to make this happen. So here's my conversation with the one and only Jackson, aka Great Badon, Miss Paintbrush of Grand Buffet. My part 1 of my dual two-parter on the legacy and history of the guys in Grand Buffet. Check it out.
I associate you with a personal journals tour with the Don and Sage, where we played like a theater.
Yeah, so that was like a couple of years after that, after Wesley Willis, of course, where it was Sage Francis, Graham Buffet, Edon, and I think
Shalem.
Yeah, yep.
That's
And that was at the North Coast Repertory Theater in Eureka, California. I remember it because I did the show with Michelle Cable, Panache Magazine, which was also like, we did a bunch of the shows together in Humboldt. And yeah, it was like, I remember that being very special because I think that was the one and only show I ever put on in that venue. And it was a seated, it's a repertory theater. So, they probably did Death of a Salesman like the next week or something like that. Or maybe nothing that sophisticated, but it was a very cinematic kind of theatrical performance.
I remember specifically drawing like abs and pecs on my body with permanent marker and like busting through the curtain with that. I feel like the PA was not really kicking ass. So
no.
The angle was like, oh, I'm gonna like go like full theater kid on this. And I remember Edon, who was a very, very competitive cat and a very fucking like hard act to follow, even though we were going before him. Like that was one of the shows where he was kind of like, you guys got this one,
right?
Well,
yeah. I mean, that even goes to sort of show that at that time, Graham Buffet there was something beyond just like the musical joint after joint kind of performance where you're just playing beats and doing stuff. Like it could have gone in that direction quite easily, like this more theatrical
totally
exposition,
because hip-hop music was what got me into music, but that coincided also with being like a huge David Bowie fan. So this theatrical element and watching myself perform in front of a mirror as a kid was just as much a part of my like rearing artistically as was like having all the Source magazines, when they were still on newspaper print, like having all those and studying them.
So you're from the Northeast? I mean, you're not
I'm
from Pittsburgh.
Portland, Maine originally, which when I first met Tim, aka Soul from Anticon, it bugged us out because we were born, I think, within a year of each other. In fact, no, we were born same year, I'm pretty sure, and we were both redheads in Portland, Maine. But I left and he didn't, and he had much more of like this roughneck vibe when he was coming of age, and then he dropped that completely and then moved out to the Bay Area. And then when I went back to Portland as like a young adult, I saw how much it changed, and it's like there's some like gully shit going on in Portland, because you had this huge divide between incredibly wealthy people and working class people, and people were getting bopped over the head with blackjacks on some like cobblestone English thug kind of shit, like just some old world New England goon kind of shit was going on. Now it's nobody can afford to live in the Old Port. It's one of the finest places on the Eastern Seaboard to eat, but nobody can afford to live there. So what I knew of Portland is gone. But like,
yeah. Did you come to Pittsburgh from Portland, or what was your way
the trajectory was Portland, and then Westfield, Massachusetts, which is just fucking, it's a teeny little industry town.
Right.
I think it was like a trucking town. We lived in like the back of a trucking company, pretty much. So it was a weird scene where I had the woods, and then I had like endless rows of 18-wheelers to just walk through and like, like look at my baseball cards. And then we moved to Pittsburgh, mom and dad, and my sister and I moved to Pittsburgh in 1988. And then things kind of disintegrated shortly thereafter with our with my parents' marriage and our socioeconomic status. Like, we were in a blue ribbon school district, and then like both of my parents kind of went into bankruptcy, and like then mom got a little apartment outside of the school district, and dad kept an even smaller apartment within the school district so we could technically stay with our friends.
Right.
And just right away I got an about face of like, oh, this is where I'm at now. Like, I'm not a middle class kid. I'm like a lower, upper lower class kid. And like, not having money is like a real thing now. So, and not being able to hang out with my friends because I live outside of the school district was a thing. So it forced me to go into my own world, and that's where music and drawing became like my salvation. Where it was like that was my world. And hip hop was, even though it was not intended for me, was the punk rock music of the time, in that it was the most relevant, it was the most vital thing going on. It had the strongest voice. And in my opinion, looking back, if you were Caucasian and at all into music, it seemed logical that you were going to get into hip hop unless you harbored like some racist shit and just couldn't get into that, because that's not for you. Yeah. It's like, well, fucking rock and roll wasn't for you either, but you took that and now that's your thing. So I instinctively thought that was bullshit.
Were you like, as a kid, or at least at that time, were you just sort of like on your own figuring this stuff out, or did you have like, was it more like you could have like a group of friends that all shared that? Because I kind of have a similar, growing up, it was sort of a similar experience, at least in as far as discovering music, because it was more like kind of a loner thing where a lot of my kids my age, or the kids that were my friends, they weren't really into music. Like, it was more, I grew up in a kind of a small town. It was a college town, but it was like, sports was the main hobby of that generation. So if you didn't play football or baseball or basketball, which every kid did, like in a fun neighborhood in the front yard type shit, but a lot of them that was like, okay, well, you're going to continue doing that, and that's going to be your chosen hobby. Like, so hip hop for me too was like, amongst other things, but that was like my own little individual thing to discover on my own, because there wasn't a whole lot of like of an exchange with other people. Was it like that? Does that make sense? Was that?
I had no big brother figure,
right,
or big sister figure for that matter to hit me.
Because your sister is younger than you.
No, my sister is my age.
Oh, okay.
Fraternal twin sister. She's like blonde hair, blue eyes. Like, we're split down the middle stylistically. Just every which way, we're kind of different people.
Right.
Both good people, but different. I'm very much cool on my own and like to be left alone to be in my own little world. And she likes to be around people, and she's team oriented. Right. That's why she's a school teacher in Atlanta.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like a 13-year-old student permanently, I can totally recall when grunge hit the scene in the last year of middle school in the North Hills of Pittsburgh. So the suburbs. And he was coming from New England as well. He was a Massachusetts kid by way of Arizona, where he had just moved from.
Okay.
But he was
Interesting.
He was through and through a New England kid.
Right.
And he had an older brother who had the New York City Breakers posters right next to Rush and the Police and Kiss, and he was hip to all that stuff. So grunge had a big brother that schooled him on all that kind of stuff. So going over to grunge's house and seeing how it was going down in the basement with guitar amps and a drum set, and grunge had his bass, and it was like, holy shit. nobody is putting it down like this in the school. So before grunge, I had one friend who was into rap only because it was going to piss his parents off. And when shit started to get a little political, like, he felt alienated, and he gave me the first Public Enemy record, Yo Bum Rush the Show, and he gave me all of his rap because he realized, like, this isn't for me. Like, I liked it because they were swearing, but now, like, it almost sounds like they don't like me. You know, this, like, Italian
revelation.
This Italian Polish kid. So I took those cassettes, and it's like, holy shit, it just blew my mind. And as soon as I heard Chuck D's voice, I was like, I know that voice, because I heard that on my clock radio at like midnight one night, just trying to go to sleep and having that right by my bedside. My realistic clock radio was like, holy shit, I heard something off Yo Bummer's show, and it was the coolest sounding shit.
Here on the radio here in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Do you remember, was there like a show? Was there like a late night mix show?
Yeah, it would have been either CMU or Pitt's college radio, like, hip hop show.
Right.
There was a real flimsy signal. But that was one of those, like, the voice of God by way of, like, Chuck D, like, came through the thin speakers.
Yeah, Chuck D really cut through a lot of shit to a lot of people at that time, myself included.
Anyone around my age, like, if Chuck isn't the hip hop father figure, I don't know who is.
Right.
Like, it's gonna be Chuck, or it's gonna be, if they're a little older, Kumo D or KRS-One or Ice-T or someone that just was a clearly defined, just, I got shit figured out, and this is what you do, and this is how you do it. So I had that moment where my friend gave me those tapes that got me into it. And then there was another kid in school that was by no means progressive and reading Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver and doing stuff that I was doing by way of these names I was hearing with Public Enemy and Boogie Down Productions. But he was a weirdo, and he had Take a Look Around by Master Ace.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, let me borrow that. And I loved that production. Yeah. And that was like, when I heard Music Man, I was like, holy shit.
Hell yeah.
What is this? I want to get into this. That's why I learned about the whole Juice Crew thing, because somehow I had missed Big Daddy Kane and Cool G Rap. I just missed, that was a whole pocket that I didn't know anything about.
Were you watching videos? Did videos influence you at all this time, or was it all like analog audio tapes? And
we had the Jukebox Network that came on like crackly black and white television. So I would be in my mom's basement watching a black and white TV, and at around midnight the rap videos started getting requested. And I don't know if you remember the box. I don't know.
I know. Yeah, I remember the box.
You heard anyone talk about it?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I didn't have it in rural Virginia, but yes, of course, there's a very impactful thing, especially in cities, in major metropolitan areas too. Yeah, for sure.
So you would see Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue,
right,
and then like a half an hour of commercials for like sex chat lines, and then you would see 4 back-to-back playings of Me So Horny by Two Live Crew. And it's like, if you wanted to just keep requesting shit, you could.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I saw the DOC, The Doc and the Doctor, which was like...
Great video.
It kicked my fucking head in because it was these big beats.
Yeah.
And it was just this booming voice... And like a tall cat with a leather trench coat, I was like, "Wow, that's the coolest motherfucker that I've heard from the West Coast."
Yeah,
and he's by himself. He's not NWA. He's not with the crew, so he's kind of doing his own kind of thing. Even though I would soon connect him to NWA by way of like, oh, when I started re-listening, it's like, oh yeah, he's all over those records, and
Right, sure.
he's a ghostwriter for a lot of those tracks, and you can totally hear his flow in there. But that was a big thing, so I started staying up late and losing a lot of like academic rest. That coincided with me being like, oh, fuck all this school stuff, because it's I'm never going to be good at math. I'm only going to be like the art kid. So
Right.
I'll get A's in art. I'll get A's in everything that I'm interested in. Everything else, I'll just pass.
Yeah. So when you guys started Grand Buffet, were you still, was it just right out of high school or something? Were you teenage dudes when that came to be?
It started for real the last year of high school. In a true way, in that I had aspirations to go to art school because that's all I've been doing prior to, is drawing and painting and doing artistic kind of stuff, and doing little hip hop kind of like burners on paper and little designs, and I had my own like clothing line aspirations and all this kind of stuff.
Did you have a name?
I had too many different names,
Right.
like Iguanodon being the last one, because that was my first like rap name within Grand Buffet.
Right.
Just because I got this little toy in one of those crank machines of Iguanodon, and it had a permanent thumbs up. That was, I think, the first discovered dinosaur by an English paleontologist cat. So I was like, that's a cool looking dinosaur. It's got permanent thumbs up, so that's going to be my rap name.
Right.
And yeah, that's where things solidified, because I got a scholarship to University of Arts in Philly, and I deferred it until I just realized that I don't want to do that, because I'm either going to get a job as a graphic designer where all that matters is that I know the latest version of Adobe programs,
Right.
or I'm getting into fine arts and I have no fucking income. So even if I did get a scholar, I do have a scholarship, but I'm going to have, to need money coming in to be able to afford food if I'm in Philly. So I was like, fuck that. I'm just going to work labor jobs, which I did. Just got a job painting houses, which was cash under the table, no insurance. So if I fall 40 feet off a ladder and crack my skull, I'm living in a wheelchair, drooling on myself, like with nothing to fucking break my fall. I would have just been living with moms, like,
Wow. Yeah. That's that.
without a pot to piss in. But luckily none of that happened. And the money that I made at that point in time, right after high school graduation, it all went into being able to afford food and just travel expenses when Grand Buffet would do these little road gigs to Annapolis, Maryland, and Baltimore,
Right.
Maryland, and Youngstown, Ohio, and things like that.
Yeah, because I mean, like, obviously some time had to be taken for you guys to start like really like hitting the road. Now I know obviously like grunge kind of was like the sort of like the booking, the manager, the booking agent of the
Totally.
group,
Totally.
and you were I always associated you as like the primary vocalist. I mean, you were the rapper in the group, because even in those earlier tours, he would do ad libs and stuff, and presumably he did most of the production too. But,
Totally. We were split down the middle
Right.
initially. And when it came to a live thing, I would be doing the majority of the rhymes, and we would come together doing a sung chorus or a rapped chorus, and he would be my hype man, taking my little breath spots here and there.
Right.
And we got really in a certain pocket with each other, to the point where we could do a show now and he would still remember those parts where I need to take a breath. Just from doing a show with him last year, that stuff was still there.
But obviously, so where
He was doing all the beats because he was a proper musician. He knew how to read music, and
Right.
he was a pretty fucking good bass player at that point in time. And his brother was a drummer and a guitarist, so he knew how to go into pockets respectively and how to arrange music. So for him to put together tracks was much more musical, And for me, it was like I had a Casio Rap, man, and I had these little weird, sounds that I could like cobble together on a cassette tape. And I had the concept of break beats and taking like a little portion that I like and using that snippet over and over. But I didn't have an MPC. I didn't have anything like that to put that shit together.
Right.
So it just sounded really cheap and thin. I don't know that we really ever got beyond cheap and thin until we started getting our stuff mastered. But it was always lo-fi comparatively.
Yeah. I mean, and that became like sort of like the aesthetic musically, which, that would be part of the charm too. I mean, the kind of production was very much like very specific to Grand Buffet, which in itself is kind of a difficult group to explain,
very much
to
so.
Mansplain to people.
Yeah, the one way that I explain it to people that have a pretty good understanding of music in the last like 40 years is if you were to combine sensibilities of Sparks and Devo and Audio 2. Those are probably how you put together, prepare yourself for these guys are about to go on stage. If you have a heads up to these three bands, that will give you the best gist of like who these guys are. Because like Audio 2, we did hip hop, but we were always kind of like outsiders in that we were MC Light's little brother, we were someone's weird friend, and we never quite got on, and we never fit in as a hip-hop group. I never had an interest to be accepted by any cats unless I just thought they were cool musically.
Right.
Like, we would never be accepted by groups that were serious hip-hop cats in that like I can't smirk, I can't have any type of vulnerability kind of scene. We were never going to be embraced by them. We were never going to be embraced by rock groups and punk groups.
Yeah.
So all we could do is pretty much steal our fans from other people's audiences that understood that we were doing. And we were also a band that was appreciated by a lot of artists themselves because they would just see us go out there with a fucking Discman and be like, wow, these dudes got some balls.
Big time.
Like, they're like WWF heels. They're either like super sweet or they're total fucking antagonistic assholes. And
that's so funny. That's such a great analogy.
Yeah, the WWF heel thing, though, I was never a big wrestling cat. Like, it definitely absorbed Roddy Piper and cats like that were always in the back of my mind, along with Devo and just wise asses,
right?
People that had a sense of humor and had this bombast and would go out. It's us versus you. We're smarter than you. We're cooler than you. We're funnier than you. Whether we actually are or not, we'll find out based on who's in the audience. And people would either be smarter than us and they wouldn't fuck with us, or they'd be dumber than us. And in between, like, that was our pocket. You know what I mean? How did
like the early days in Pittsburgh go? Because Pittsburgh is kind of it's such an interesting city too. Like, musically, like, was that kind of representative of like just the country as a whole as far as where you guys like kind of fit in? Because as long as I've known you, always have sort of existed in this as a weird anomaly too.
Pittsburgh is a spot where if you go 10 miles outside of the city, you can go in the backyard and see a Confederate flag. Mm-hmm. You can feel like you're south of the Mason-Dixon. So when we were cutting our teeth, the scene was bar bands and punk bands and goth industrial bands and metal bands. And the metal bands were older.
Right.
And if they were our age, they were more what would be called new metal bands, which we didn't want to fuck with.
The original metal bands are maybe holdovers from the 80s. They're still playing.
These were cats that were using Aquanet and rocking spandex, and they were
like hair metal bands.
Totally. That when we recorded our first record, we were in a studio right next to what would have been like a hair metal band. And they were real nice cats that did landscaping and carpentry, and they were a good 20 years older than us.
Right.
But because Grunge and I were music fans, and they had a chip on their shoulder seeing that we were into hip-hop, it's like when we finally broke bread, it's like, oh, these kids know about like these Deep Purple deep cuts and Rush deep cuts, and like they can talk about Robert Fripp or about this or that, and it's like these are good kids.
Yeah,
We're gonna take them under our wing. So we started doing shows in bumfuck like outskirts of Pittsburgh at places where there would be Battle of the Bands, where cats got these Joe Satriani guitar rigs with the Jackson, like high action metal guitars, and they would be like, "What's going on, Pittsburgh? Make some noise!" when there's like 15 people in the audience,
right?
And it would be like Jaeger shots, and the girls with like 10 inches of like bangs. Like they were fully on with that. So we would go on in front of 40-year-old metal fans with a fucking disc man and a DJ at that point in time, playing DMC records and maybe some like Billy Squier and like juggling some like rock beats.
So really kind of going the semi-traditional hip hop.
Semi-traditional, yeah, because we had a DJ that went to our school that was into that.
Yeah.
So they were just like, wow, the fuck is this? And they would either hate us, or because we had balls at that point in time to be playing in front of people that potentially could have murdered us and stuffed us in a trash can at that venue.
Right.
It was like zebras walking into a lion's den, and it's like, wow, these kids got balls, so we're gonna take them under our wing and like protect them from someone with like an Aryan Nation like tattoo on their neck.
Oh my god.
Kind of a scene. So we got in with those cats, and we got in with punk rock cats doing like Food Not Bomb style collectives around the town.
Right.
And
that was pretty thriving in Pittsburgh too, right?
That was thriving in Pittsburgh. Yeah. It was punk. This is the punk city.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah, and you have a pretty good grasp of that history too. I mean, like, obviously, you guys probably came up with some of those bands at this point in time now, looking back. Right?
We came up with any scene that we could play shows with,
right.
But no scene ever really adopted us because we couldn't fit in if we tried.
Right.
And we didn't necessarily want to fit in because our whole interest was, if we can have some of their fans and some of their fans and some of their fans in our audience, when you look out at our audience and take a snapshot, you're going to see a fucking weird audience, and that's what we want. So when we started to get momentum in Pittsburgh and we played release shows, we had weird audiences, which made for a better show.
Right.
And made for some type of scene solidarity for a brief period in time where it's like, we had no interest in playing shows with bands that sounded like us. At that point in time, no bands really sounded like us, and yeah, it was just that magic moment in time where we were pioneering something and just networking with bands that we liked.
Right. Well, I think even that album release show, or I forget which project it was for, but the one when I came out here to Pittsburgh with Z-Man, I think it must have been 2002.
Mm-hmm. That was around Pittsburgh Hearts.
Yeah, it was either Undercover Angels, Cigarette Beach, or Pittsburgh Hearts. But I think Pittsburgh Hearts was the last of those EPs.
Yeah.
But it was, that bill was Grand Buffet, Gil Menter's Party Dream, Z-Man, a rapper from the Bay Area, very different from those two.
Totally.
And Skell, which was like a traditional hard rock
Pittsburgh
band.
metal.
Right.
Really good players.
Yeah.
That knew their shit inside and out, and we hired them to be our like tough backing band for these rap rock tunes. I remember I made shirts with stencils that said rock for them, and Grunge and I both had ones that said rap.
Right. And
we came out and they were playing the riff from Working Man by Rush, and we went into like that. I remember at some point, correct me if I'm wrong, I ended up like dipping a crucifix in nacho cheese.
Yeah, you came out with some white crucifixes, some nacho cheese that you would get at the gas station, and
gas station crucifixes.
Yeah, and dipping it. Yeah, I mean it was. I have some great photos from that because I took a bunch of film
I'd love
photos.
to see them.
Yeah, they're amazing with the crosses on the. There's nacho cheese all over the ground and the stage and the floor, and like you're licking the nacho cheese off the crucifix and stuff like that. I mean,
there was a point where I looked out in the audience and I saw my dad just kind of like having that moment where he's like, oh, like that's Jackson doing his weird shit. Like it's all good. Like I can't even be mad.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it was a perfect Grandma Faye experience.
It's like when I was his age, I was firing a machine gun out of a helicopter in Nam. And he's dipping a wooden cross in Cheese Whiz.
Yeah, this is what we fought for.
It was not what they fought for,
right.
but he could look back and look at it that way, and I'll look at it that way.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty awesome. I mean the freedom of choice there that's done on stage as a performer.
Totally,
he's pretty great.
Totally.
I would love to know how you guys. What your experience was with the late Wesley Willis, because he's obviously such a kind of this mystique. There was a mystique when he was alive, obviously, and one that still looms, I think, today. But you guys, you traveled with him a lot for a couple of years. Right?
We did a very short but very dense burst of touring and coexisting with Wes, where I think we did 3 tours with him, one in a bus, one in our actual van with Wes's head like rubbing up against the roof, because he was a giant man.
This is like a minivan,
an Astro
van.
It was an Astro van, yeah. And then two big, white touring vans. So we had 3 proper tours with him. I'm sure we did some more little one-off things, but we were huge fans of his. And when he rolled through Pittsburgh, his manager, I think his road manager, saw us, and then we were tight with Dan Deacon, who was a student and booking shows at SUNY Purchase.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't realize that.
We did the Pittsburgh show, and then the next day, I think or maybe a day in between, we went to rock a show at SUNY Purchase where Dan Deacon had facilitated, Wes and us, and like he put together this weird ass show, and Wes's road manager saw that again, and it's like, oh, it kind of clicks. You guys seem to be a good fit, and Wes kind of digs what you guys are doing. Whether he did or not, I don't know, but we, boom, like got offered to do some shows with Wes, and then that just brought us into this weird little Wes world where we got to know the dude intimately and know all of his quirks and
I mean, you're doing
dietary.
Right? Are you doing these long drives with him? I mean, you're in a little van with him.
Yeah, we experienced 9/11 with Wes.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that 9/11 happened the morning that we were in Halifax. No, we weren't in Halifax. We were somewhere in Canada, and the show that night was in Halifax. Woke up that morning. I'm eating breakfast with Wes, and his head is well, he's looking at me, and I'm looking at a television set at the bar in this restaurant, and I'm watching the towers come down, and I know that Wes should not be seeing this because he has a close personal relationship with skyscrapers, and like that would flip his wig. So, tried to just keep him away from what was like the biggest thing to happen in the United States since, I don't know, the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And grunge just woke up with fucking pneumonia and had to hop a train to get to the border, and then took a bus, I think, to Massachusetts or something like that, if memory serves. He would tell the story better. But that coincided with me all of a sudden opening the shows by myself representing Grand Buffet and also driving Wes around by myself in our van. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the show that we did in Brooklyn, I remember driving that van in, I think it was like gridlock traffic. Wes has to take a piss and is about to have like a freak out. I'm trying to look at a map and like he's about to like bop himself in the head. So I'm holding his hand, keeping him from like popping himself in the head. And he's trying to like take a piss in this big gulp. And it was the highest stress level I had ever like had, at least since like my parents' divorce, I would say. And I've never gotten back there since, and I have no desire to.
Really? That was your last time in New York?
No.
That was
We
your
played
last.
New York many times.
That was your last time.
That was the last time that I was going to deal with that level of stress.
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, it was a very solemn show in Brooklyn, where it would have been a sold out show probably on any other night with Wes at that point in time. But there were no more than like 30 people, I think, and it was just weird. It was just like a chilling. And the show in Manhattan was canceled.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, that must have been days after.
I don't know when. I don't know when it was, because I know we had this New England run right after 9/11 coming out of Canada, where he thought he was going to be assassinated, and I had to talk him out of it when we were playing in Vermont. Or Bennington? No, Burlington. No. What was the college?
Well, Bennington College is
Bennington College. Yeah, we had a show at Bennington, and they just, not knowing Wes's quirks, like put dude in a backstage green room area that was surrounded by mirrors. So it was like a scene out of the Bruce Lee movie where he's having a standoff with Mr. Han, surrounded by mirrors, and Wes is like freaked out that someone is going to shoot him on stage. It's God. Like, you got to get Wes out of here.
He had serious,
he was chronic schizophrenic, like high anxiety, type 2 diabetes was looming, like everything was going wrong physiologically with the cat. So he needed to be on his meds and needed to be eating decent food, with some water-rich food needed to be coming into his diet. He had his like safe restaurants like Denny's and Subway, and so he had certain things that he could and couldn't do. And anytime like we veered off of that, shit could get a little sketchy. Like Grunge and I both vividly recall, dude, projectile vomiting Bob Evans at a road stop, where I was looking from the back seat and I just see him with a big gulp, like just filling the big gulp with vomit, like he was like expertly like 33rd degree level like monk, just filling this thing like a faucet with vomit. And I was like, Grunge, check it out, like we gotta pull over. And then we pull over and Wes just fucking spews vomit for like, a stream of like 3 feet. And it was a glorious thing, the mechanism of it all, but it sucked that dude was not feeling good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had lovely experiences with Wes, and he was one of the funniest motherfuckers, and he was the most unique person I've ever met.
What was this thing with the hitting the head thing? What was that all about? Did you ever understand?
It would have been born from when he would have been in a facility or some care center or halfway house or whatever you would want to call it, where he was left to his own devices and in a bad place, hitting his head against the wall. So he had calcified bone on his forehead in like a noticeable bump.
Yeah.
Which you've seen him, and you saw like he had a knot on his forehead from bumping it up against the wall. So it was a way of almost recalibrating him. When fans would do it, it would be just a calming type of thing.
Yeah, because it became a thing that people would associate with him, that he would headbutt people at shows.
Totally.
It was like a kind of like a funny, like affable thing, but obviously there's some deep psychological thing attached to that's like goes beyond anything humor based.
Yeah. Like a 16-year-old kid that was just a big fan would come up and get their CD signed, and depending upon Wes's mood, they would get this gentle exchange, or they would get a very firm grip of Wes holding like the back of their head to his head, and him looking deep. He's like, look me in the eyes and like bump me on the head so I can laugh like a goddamn jackal or whatever animal he wanted to insert at that point in time. And the head bumps could be real mild, or they could be some like heavy duty shit. And one of us would be there to be like, Wes, you know, chill on them, like go easy.
Right.
But Wes was always a pretty fucking delightful dude, and it was the best experience that I've ever had with an artist that was working on this mystic kind of level where they needed their creative outlet for actual sanity,
Right.
in a way that no other artist that we toured with was even close to that. So
Yeah.
he was a come up for us, in that he connected us with so many other cats that were at those shows, whether we ended up playing shows with them or working with them in some capacity, or like our booking agent. Like,
Right.
yeah, he was a key to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, he was like, it's kind of like, you know, like a Daniel Johnston, or like maybe even like, I don't know if Jandek, but one of these characters that's like, you know, otherworldly, or has a whole story that people kind of create around them too and shit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that run with him obviously like sort of broke you guys in a certain way, like with, you know, the random
Taught us to be
fan.
tough. It taught us
Sure,
to be tough, because we would load in late if the road manager was slipping and had slept in. Like we load in when we should have performed an hour ago at some of these venues, so the audience is pissed. Half of the audience came out to laugh at like a sideshow attraction, you know, their thoughts, not mine.
Sure.
And half of the audience was there to see someone who they thought was this magical fucking creative force, which was our opinion.
Right.
And we felt very defensive of him, in that he was giving us an opportunity, and he was this wonderful dude that people would definitely take advantage of. So we tried to come out on stage and diffuse things. And if that wasn't going to happen, we went full on heel, and we turned into like antagonistic motherfuckers. And that's where we honed our craft of like, if it's 30 kids or like 1,000 kids and they aren't fucking with us, like, we're not fucking with you, and we're going to troll you for like the entire set.
Right. Which you guys became masters of, I feel like.
Yeah, by way of survival, and
Right.
we got pretty quick-witted, and we got kind of fearless. Like, I was very good at talking shit. Grunge was very good at talking shit, and also being physically imposing enough that
Right.
that he could see you after the show, and you wouldn't want to deal with that. And maybe I would give the illusion of being like a pillhead, or just some spastic that might have like a bag of blades in a little leather pouch by my side.
Right.
Or I always had like oversized pleated pants, and just
The outfits were immediate visual throw off to people,
Yeah.
because you guys would, you know, whether it was half tongue in cheek or intentional, but there was a thing where, you know, you guys would come, you have this sort of like punk, but like irony thing that, depending on what part of the country you're in, can be interpreted all types of different ways. You know, Grunge always had, he would start having like the
Chain wallet.
full leg length chain wallet and the cut
shants.
off dickies. You know,
the shants.
Shants.
He would have the shoes like that from discount bins 8 to 10 years after they were cool. So
right.
he would have like the Patrick Ewing high tops. Like he would have all the wackest but coolest shit,
Right.
along with the Dinosaur Jr. shirt or
Right.
the Spin Doctor shirt. And I would have the like form-fitting t-shirt with the pleated zoot suit pants that were held on by a belt. Not because I thought they were cool or not because I thought they were like whack, just because I didn't know what the fuck like I was trying to say at that point in time. I was just going to come out with something and it was going to be a little off-putting, and that's where I was at.
Right. Well, I think it also like sort of like was a precursor to a thing that now is super popular with performance arts. I mean, with people, especially in comedy, you know. And I think you guys and Neil Hamburger sort of kind of came up around the same time too, and he probably had to deal with a lot of those survival skills too. I'm a fan of his, and
we were on a bill together, but we were not Grand Buffet.
Oh, really?
We would link up with this 2-piece rock outfit called the Modi Lemon, which was a really good rock duo that turned into a trio before they kind of like I don't know, stop doing the thing. And we were like this tongue-in-cheek working class Pittsburgh rock band, blues based rock band, doing Americana, you don't like it, get the fuck out, like big girls, fast cars.
Right.
And we did a show opening for him where we had to leave the venue in this persona because we ended the show with what seemingly was an underage girl that stripped completely naked and us doing beer shots off of her ass.
Uh-huh.
Like, it was by design, and there were people that knew who we were and people who didn't know who we were, and even people who knew who we were like aghast at what was going on. But it became a kind of legendary show.
Is this just like a one-time only thing? This band?
This was a band called the Four Seasons Boys, which turned into a band called Cobalt Black. And we did 4 or 5 shows, I think. And it was just like the whole thing was piss people off, but do songs that you were psyched about if you were an imaginary rock and roll band a la Motley Crue by way of like
Is it
a
covers?
local band. We did one cover. The way the whole thing started was Modi Lemon had a gig and we had a gig in this fucking park somewhere in Maryland. Both of our shows tanked. So we ended up combining forces at a bar where we just cobbled together covers, like not knowing any fucking thing, like complete songs or anything. So we just winged it. And the one song where things came together was a Bob Seger song. So we, for the first show, did I think a Bob Seger song several times over. Like, it's all very fuzzy how we did it.
Right.
But yeah, and like the next show was at a vegan punk rock venue where we brought in alcohol and we're all smoking and threw a KFC bucket around and we're just WWF heels. We were total just fucking antagonistic cats. Yeah. So that's kind of where we were at.
But that's a thing. I mean, that's a with look at Eric Andre and Tim and Eric and stuff like that, where it's a thing that people they love. The audience pays to be fucked with.
Totally. And given how much we played Florida, I'm sure Eric Andre would have been in effect at one of the shows that we were on the bill of, because he was in like a funk metal group that was very tongue-in-cheek, very Zappa. So we would have like, he probably would have hated us, we probably would have hated him just because we were too similar at a point in time. But I love some of the shit that he's been doing, and I recognize in him a lot of what we would have been doing if we had the financing to have our own show.
Yeah.
Like there's some beautiful moments like in the stuff that he's done on his show.
Was that ever a thing? Did anyone ever approach you? I mean, it might have been. Was it ahead of its time in that, like, Adult Swim still wasn't really as like a force in 2002 and 2003?
We kind of disintegrated as an actively touring recording act right at the gates of all that stuff popping on and all the type of like smartphones that didn't sound like shit recording live banter. So there are so many little rants and shows that were we doing shows now, they would have went viral, and that would have single-handedly got us shows throughout, like, the Western world, in my opinion.
People would have seen that, and that would have been the incentive. Oh, we want to bring that here.
Yeah, I feel as though someone was telling me that someone heard us mentioned as like a footnote on Wise podcast, where they were kind of musing on how, man, if like these cats had stayed or been around at that point where viral videos had popped off, they would have gotten a second wind and really like popped off. But we disintegrated right before that happened, and that was...
Well, it's like you guys are like the Black Flag of that shit too, as far as like the early Black Flag years of them like just touring and like going and just fuck all shit shows, but still just slaying the audience nonetheless, and and that ushers in like another crop, the next generation. Not to say that like you guys aren't like old retired, guys either.
Totally.
I will say this in conjunction to that, your stand-up album, the stand-up comedy album that basically you guys did, is fucking brilliant. Do you know which album I'm talking about?
Where it's us heckling?
Yeah.
Yeah, that all praise due to Grunge on that one. That was his thing. Just like I had that weird karaoke MP3s thing where I'm just singing poorly to like horrible bitrate, Napster karaoke songs. We had huge ambition, but we never had the infrastructure to really pop things off. Like that's why we never really had a big video. We never had, just as things look like they were about. There's this Bowie quote about Iggy Pop on the back of his like 1980 biography, where it says something about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And I thought that was very apt to like our story. Like just when it looks like Grand Buffet is about to like come up, it's like they piss away their money on like a bunch of personal pan pizzas and rent instead of like financing a video that would have been well recorded and filmed and would have brought us to like this new level of exposure. It's because we were always butting heads at like how it was going to look or how it was going to sound, that it always just stayed on the back burner, and instead we just ended up like not being around each other until we had to tour again. So all of these things that could have been nurtured just turned into us like stringing together rent and buying like cake and cookies and pizza for a couple months, not having to get day jobs. So it was living hand to mouth, shoebox banking kind of stuff on, the streets of Pittsburgh, which were very affordable and continue to be so comparatively.
Did you see like over the years, you guys, I mean, during this tenure of the group, that when you came back to Pittsburgh, that like did your stature as a group feel like it was like solidified somehow? Because it's just like the contemporary art. I mean, maybe I'm framing this in a weird way, but I'm thinking of like contemporary artists that come out of Pittsburgh and like make some sort of name for themselves or whatever, and then come home. It's like did you guys always sort of remain this weird oddity type thing, or do people get it here in Pittsburgh finally? Do they like understand what it's all about?
I can be in different cities and I can be around Pittsburgh and people will stop me and recognize me from Grand Buffet, and strangely sometimes from Mrs. Paintbrush, which is really weird in that like I've never toured with that project and there's one video. But here, and it's always been a thing in my adult life, Pittsburgh is a pretty thankless place, but that's a blessing and a curse in that you can never kind of like live on your own dick here, because people don't give a fuck about you if you're king shit and you're sitting at the bar, like,
right,
because it's not the type of place where pretense gets you anywhere, and playing like the popularity game or the status game gets you any fucking where here. Right. This is still a city that's divided between tech and medicine and education, and don't have a pot to piss in, working hand, like living hand to mouth kind of a thing. So we just ran into Greg Gillis, aka right. Girl Talk, who, if I had his money, I would probably have turned into the biggest fucking prick. I would be in a suit of armor right now with temperature controlled, like shoes, and a fucking hoverboard, and like a wooden artisanal case for my hoverboard. Like, that cat is incredibly just good natured, and like, he's always been sweet. He's always been humble,
super humble.
Lives right down the street. You can see him at any bar, and he still does the same shit and still eats Domino's pizza, where it's like, I would be a fucking huge prick, and I would be only eating at like the top of skyscrapers, like, if I had his money, and I would have pissed it away years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? But gloriously so.
Oh, sure.
And I would have financed like elaborate things where he's like invested it seemingly, and he makes like shrewd decisions, and he puts it back into his career.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he knows that scene, that like, he can go hobnob with cats that are millionaires, like at festival shows, but when he comes back to Pittsburgh, no one gives a fuck. and
that is, I could see that being in a way a blessing. I mean, it keeps you grounded.
It is totally, and it has made for some of the deadliest bands in the United States to me, where certain bands in Pittsburgh that nobody knows, when you come through and you're a hot shit LA act or a New York act and you're playing this dive bar, this band might open up for you and they might clean the fucking floor with you and make you look like shit, because they're like a gang and they're used to people not giving a fuck. So they've turned into this tribe of just like bloodthirsty, like, we're on the same wavelength cats, where like, if you're at all slipping and you're down mood wise because you didn't get the right chips backstage, this opening act might destroy you, because they're like in their early 20s or they're in their like mid 40s, and they have seen it all and done it all, or they're ready to take on the world, respectively, and they don't give a fuck about anything but like kicking your ass. So it's great, and I'll still go up and stand in the front row of a show where it's like a 21-year-old kicking ass, or it's older cats kicking ass, and that makes for a really cool scene in Pittsburgh. We still don't have proper venues for the middle ground. Like, you have basement shows and you have bar shows, and then you have this void in between, and then you have big promoter shows.
Yeah, you got Stage AE, right? And then like the Heinz. But
the middle ground is missing. Whereas when GB was coming up, Oakland, that neighborhood right down the way, had 4 great venues for that middle ground
show. Do you remember what those were? Yeah,
you had Laga, you had the Attic Upstage, you had a place that it used to be, what was it, like Tobacco Roadhouse? It was called The Decade long ago, when like U2 played it.
Oh wow!
Police played it, and it's not much bigger than this room. They played it when they were like still on that punk rock circuit. Like, Oakland used to be a hub, just like Bloomfield used to be a hub, where like Bloomfield has really no venues except for this place called Howlers.
Okay, I've heard that.
And that was a spot where in like 1980, Robert Fripp played a show when he was into the whole no wave thing, along with Brian Eno, and they were digging all this weird punk shit and post-punk shit.
What neighborhood is Brillo Box in?
Brillo Box is on the cusp of Bloomfield and Lawrenceville.
Okay.
And it's a cool spot, and many friends of mine are involved with it, do sound there, work
cool.
there.
It's like kind of a mainstay. It's been around for a long time.
Totally, yeah. That's a spot that I've played a lot, and I'll do like a birthday show there, and the sound is good, and you know what to expect as far as like what they take from the door, and like they're nice folks.
Yeah, it's like the touring. I mean, touring acts will run through there. It's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's something else I wanted to kind of talk about, too, if this is all right, because I sort of asked you before. But since I hadn't seen you in a while, too, and this kind of plays into talking about Pittsburgh as well, is that, and I heard that, like, I think through grunge, because this was a few years ago, but that you got shot.
Yeah.
What is that something?
How did that all come together?
Yeah, like it's like talking about like a record release party. But you're like it was. You're okay, right?
I'm totally okay. I have like a extra centimeter of calcified bone. I have this little lump right underneath my right knee where the slug went. Which has become harder than ever and very resilient thanks to, I think, running on pavement like a dumbass a couple times a week. Right. Like I don't run distance, I run pretty much sprints, so I look like this fucking crazed, possibly homeless guy, or just like this burnt out Peter Pan looking cat in like in green short shorts running around. So I got like a little scar there. The way that it happened, I was at a club at some DJ night that a friend of mine was doing, and I was dancing my ass off, and it was this unseasonably warm evening. This was in February, 6 years ago. Okay. So yeah, we were coming up on like the 6-year anniversary, and I didn't capitalize on the 5-year anniversary. So if you don't capitalize on that, you can't come with like the 6-year anniversary. So I'm never gonna exploit it. Like it's water under the bridge. But
10 years might be good though.
10 years I could see. Yeah, we'll see where I'm at if I need some like Kickstarter money. I can cash. Yeah, I can extort that and embellish like how traumatic it was. But right now, while I'm being completely honest, I was coming over this huge hill on a road called Stanton and riding through Highland Park and then East Liberty. And right as I was passing this gas station, there were 2 individuals that were having some exchange with this other older cat, and tensions were high, and everyone seemed to be holding a weapon, as it seemed to be in like the play-by-play. Looking back, these 2 cats fired on this dude. He took, I think, 3 slugs, and one of those slugs that was meant for him found its way to my dumbass on my bicycle, right at the trajectory that he was like getting shot. And I had my little earbuds. No, I had one earbud in with one open to the street, the roadside, because I'm like a half dumbass. And all I saw were the silhouettes backlit of cats just scurrying after these shots went off. And I just felt what I thought at the time were like cinders, as we call them here in Pittsburgh, which would be pebbles, pieces of asphalt that felt like they went into my leg or hit my leg. And I looked and saw like, okay, some shit just went down. I'm getting the fuck out of here. And
did you fall off your bike? You didn't like lose control?
Not at all. Like, because I was moving in a pretty good clip, coming down this hill and just moving with that momentum. And I was moving in the direction with the bullet pretty much. And I had black leather pants. I had all black leather on. I was looking pretty fresh. I had these sweet Italian leather shoes that were way out of my like pay grade that I found used like a couple days before. So I was really, really slick looking. And and sweaty as all hell. And I think I had some lining underneath that, which helped with the impact, I think.
Yeah.
Being less. It was a solid... No, it was a hollow point bullet. So instead of it smashing the bone upon impact, it just kind of buckled. Whereas if that same bullet had hit me in the guts, that would have like shredded, because hollow points are they're made to fuck people up.
Right.
If you get hit in the vitals. But it worked out well, and it just buckled. And so I make it home, walk up the steps, and I just hear this click, and it was like metal on bone. And I was like, God damn it. Like, that was I got shot.
Holy shit.
So my roommate wasn't home at the time, so I just went upstairs and rolled up these leather pants and saw like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a fucking bullet hole. And started just piecing together what am I going to do? I don't want to go to the hospital because I can't afford to go to the hospital. Yeah. Like, I can't afford an ambulance ride. I can't afford anything. I have no insurance. So I just kind of like tried to clean around the area and cut off the bleeding with a t-shirt and some gauze and put some salve on it, or that's a little fuzzy, like what I did. But ultimately, I realized that someone else got shot and maybe was dead. Wow. So I called to report it, which I didn't want to be a snitch, but it was just like, hey, someone might have been shot, and they might have been like a good person that was just trying to like pay for gas or something like that. Yeah. And so I did, and just to let them know, I was just in this area, motherfuckers were getting shot. I took one of the bullets. That's what's going on. And they said, yeah, we just got someone that had a couple slugs and they were dropped off at this hospital, and they've been relocated. We're headed your way. And I was like, fuck.
Oh, wow, they're coming to you.
Yeah, so a cop shows up, and when he shows up, that means that automatically an ambulance is coming to pick me up. And I was like, I can't afford this. Mm-hmm. Don't pay for this. I walked to the door in this black leather suit jacket, with a tie and like this gold tie pin and the shoes. And the first thing he does a double take. Like, who the fuck is this guy? What is going on here? He looks like some weird kind of like Irish mafia dude. What is going on? So to let him know that nothing weird was going on, I was like, come upstairs. Like, I'll break down like what was going on. And then these dumbasses roll up with the ambulance, and it was like some like Keystone Cops level like fumblery going on, putting me in there and like strapping me in. And like, if I was really fucked up and losing a lot of blood, it would have been a problem. Like, it was just like, yeah, it was some dumb bumble kind of shit.
Wow, man.
So yeah, I had a fucked up walk for about a week and a half. Didn't tell my parents about it until I could see them personally, which for my dad, he lives in Pittsburgh, so that was like a week and a half later. Like, after things had... No, 2-3 weeks later, after things had healed, I went out to dinner with him and like broke down like, hey, I got shot, but it's all good. And then almost half a year later, when I visited my mom in New England, let her know, and obviously like she breaks into tears and is like, hey, Mom. And that was like a moment where it's like, look, you live far away from me. I don't get to visit you as much. Like, we had a good run. If anything weird happens to either one of us, like, it's all good, Like, you did your thing, I did your thing. Like, your job is done. It was a very strange conversation. But
well, why? Because it was like you sort of had a near-death experience, so you need to like have that kind of.
2 weeks after I got shot, I got hit by a car.
Really?
And that fucked me up a lot worse.
Were you riding your bike?
I was riding my bike once again, as I do every day, and this Escalade that we were both gunning down this hill. It didn't just say an abrupt U-turn on, I don't know, it looked like a police maneuver, but it left me nowhere to go but into oncoming traffic or them or a parked car. So I just tried to like turn along with them, and I went up the side of this Escalade, and my bicep shattered their side view mirror into a fucking, it exploded like confetti. And I rode up the side of this and landed still holding my bike, and like the driver gets out and is apologizing because they knew they fucked up. I didn't, and I just told him to get the fuck out of my face, which in retrospect I wish I would have exchanged information with them so that I could have some type of like coverage, because the what happened from there, this bicep just got split. Like there was no broken bone, but like I have like a junior bicep right here along with my normal bicep. Oh, wow. Which it works perfectly fine, but like I just have this extra fucking like severed bicep, which if I had the money I would have gotten some type of vanity surgery.
Right.
But
jeez Louise, man.
Yeah, so that fucked up my arm for a little while.
How is it now?
It's perfectly fine now.
Oh, okay.
Like it might have ruined my chances of like getting really fucking buff, just because there would be no extra room for this bicep to go if I got at some competitive level with it. But it's hard enough for me to put on muscle mass because I'm like permanent hummingbird metabolism type of cat.
Yeah,
like,
we kind of have a similar
totally,
body build. Yeah,
I fluctuate 5 pounds, and it's been that way since high school.
Right.
I won't gain weight, and I never got into smoking shitloads of weed and eating cheap pizza and drinking cheap beer because I never went to college. So because I didn't go to school, I never got that special college cheap beer and weed and pizza weight that a lot of my friends did, where they just kind of look gray and they developed like a little bit more neck thickness.
Yeah, that's that cheap cheese all goes into your neck.
Totally.
And like the Bud Light and Coors Light.
Yeah, so I credit that to my being in this extended adolescence. Even though the bags under my eyes or the dark circles they're evident, and some crow's feet around my eyes, like I can still run a mile the same time as I did way back when. I'm still in pretty good like fighting shape.
You look good.
Thank you.
You look great. You don't look any different from the last time I saw you.
Just a little bit of age in the face.
Yeah, you got a couple, gray.
Yeah, I got like a nice little patch of white chest hair going on, which scares me that like it's going to be a heart attack that takes me out. Which I come from total heart attack Irish family.
Yeah, but you seem like you take pretty good care of yourself too, right?
I do, but if I stop moving, I'll die.
Yeah.
It's just my Achilles based on my physiology. I love chocolate cake, and I have to eat a lot of saturated fat and cholesterol to keep my body like actively regenerating. But at the same time, if I stop, it gets glutted in my chest cavity and I die. So my day job is I'm a natural supplement buyer at the co-op in Pittsburgh. So I kind of hit the ground running, learning physiology and naturopathic medicine with no degree or anything. So I'm a total fucking snake oil salesman that has helped a lot of folks in the community wean themselves off pharmaceuticals and get off their blood pressure medication and get the shit together. I watched them go from like having a foot in the grave to getting the shit together, starting to take care of themselves and learn how to cook bulk foods and like it's been a cool, rewarding experience where it's a no stress job.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like I have insurance, and the folks are good, and it's in a community like right at the cusp of very wealthy people, and
Yeah, so there is some infrastructure to support that.
and there's diversity, which in Pittsburgh you don't get unless you actively go to areas where people are meeting at a crossroads.
Right.
So
This area seems like kind of like that vibe.
it's approaching that vibe, but this is closer to Wilkinsburg,
Right.
which is a more it's a black neighborhood because Pittsburgh is still very much socioeconomically segregated. And East Liberty is where intermingling starts to happen by way of like arts and community and things like that. But people are still getting gentrified out of their original neighborhoods, and like all that shit. The Los Angeles and San Francisco bombs are being dropped on Pittsburgh in a huge way now. Where
I can feel that.
oh, you're seeing high rise kind of loft tech buildings being just Legoed all around, and it's
Right.
like, who the fuck is living there?
Right.
You drive by these places and nobody is in these buildings.
Yeah.
Multiply that by at least a dozen. That's this monopoly stack is going on all around like the main boroughs of Pittsburgh.
Right.
And it's like, who the fuck is... And it's like if you go and get a coffee at Ace Hotel, you'll see people with leather bags that are worth more than your life. And it's like, oh, they're not from around here. They
Right.
must be some of those tech cats. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's like the Rust Belt is kind of becoming like the last frontier in a lot of ways, as far as like those cities, and like Cleveland too. I think is getting hit, but there's some cool things that are happening here. I love this city,
totally.
and I think that Grand Buffet and your story too. It's like it is very much like a Pittsburgh story, and coming back, it is like it's such a people are kind of humble and a little like they keep it real with you and shit. I don't know. I like that. I really admire that about this place and the people.
At the end of the day, we are just Steel Town girls on a Saturday night. Pittsburgh will remain Pittsburgh until everyone that was here before it got too expensive to live within city limits is gone, and it's completely just new tech and new education, students and UPMC and PNC employees, and,
Right.
and it is just a hub for New York and San Francisco and Beijing and France, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
everyone will be kicked out to the suburbs. Shortly thereafter, the giant gates will go up around the metropolis, and we will have to fight to the death to be able to have like rations and clean water.
I know.
It's ultimately where things are going.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, and the clean water here is already becoming somewhat of an issue, right?
Totally. We have a shitload of lead in our water right now, which has been leached out of the pipes by way of the treatment of the water, lowering the pH, making it more acidic. I don't know if that's lowering or raising, but it's become more acidic. I know the higher the number, the more alkaline. So,
Right.
anyhow, our water is insulting, and if I had an assault rifle, I would probably like be in jail right now. Not to like talk like a tough guy, but I don't have any kids, and I have stuffed animals and like a couple $100 in my bank account, and the thought of me having a child and it having to drink lead contaminated water that they add extra chlorine to, like, I would want to kill motherfuckers.
Right.
For real. And that's a big reason why I'm not going to have a kid, because I don't want to have to bring them up in a crumbling empire with poisonous food and water and being told what to do with them. Like,
Right.
yeah, I'm always like one like underground bunker and an assault rifle away from getting shot by cops within an hour of me making my big stand, like I'd be like a half an hour away from my destination, and like people would just see me on my bike with a gun barrel sticking out and be like, oh, like, let's hit him with our car. That's where I'm at. So I'm always like, that's why I can't really get into psychedelic drugs.
Yeah.
Because there is something looming in me, as there seems to be on one side of my family, where you could be an acid hit away from seeing like fractal elephants and like thinking that like the ghost of Gerald Ford is living in your wall. I don't even know.
Yeah, wow.
But I'm going to get into psychedelics probably in my 50s.
Yeah.
I stayed out of drugs and drinking until my 30s, and even my introduction to that. And I'm not snitching on myself. It's all pretty like pedestrian.
Yeah, I mean, even when you were doing Grand Buffet, I mean, you were never like, you know, the drunk dude. You were pretty like straight, you know, the whole time, right?
Totally. I was the introverted extrovert when it came to Showtime that had control issues. So my father figures, luckily, were Chuck D and Ice-T at this formative time where, though they were like public enemy number one, so to speak, to authority, they weren't fucking with hard drugs.
Right.
So it was like, it was cool to not drink or, you know, not smoke weed even. I remember going through this weird phase where I threw out my Cypress Hill records and my Redman records because I was like, no, like, that's a pass to like other shit. That was like a 2-month phase where I threw out my Ghetto Boys records, ended up buying them back because like they're talking about disemboweling people and like Scarface is literally a fucked up dude. But yeah, I went through this weird phase where I was essentially straight edge, vegan, didn't fuck with drugs, but didn't like any vegans, didn't like all the preachy bullshit. I just wanted to keep myself on the straight and narrow so that my band could continue to like kick ass on this DIY, you know, touring in the van level without... We needed to stay balanced, so I had to be a polarity of grunge so that we would remain interesting and remain like a functioning band. Because if he was going to drink a bunch of Jack that night, I had to be able to keep my shit together and vice versa. So when he woke up in the morning and broke out the map and broke out like how it was going down driving, I could go into my own little insular world and like read my conspiracy theories, you know, and eat my fucking oats with coconut oil, you know, at the truck stop. We needed to diversify each other, you know, to polarities so that we could exist, I feel.
Yeah, you guys did that well. Do you think you'll ever really can fully form again, record again?
I'm not at all opposed to it. He's got a lot on his plate right now as like an adult. We played a show last year. We played 2 shows, like one in Pittsburgh, which was like a big kind of GB show that I thought went swimmingly, and we had a lung capacity and we were jumping all around like 20-year-olds, and then we did our last show was in Toledo, which was a fun set as well. So I continue to stay in shape for the call, you know, the GB bat signal. But I don't expect it, and my main interest would be for us to put out a couple really good tunes, right, and then do a little tour on those, because I think we could still make a really interesting album. I don't know what it would sound like, but I've definitely stepped up my game as far as the way that I put together music. I think the last rap thing that I did where I was actually rhyming was technically on par with anything I've done before. Though I'm sure, if I'm being honest with myself, I've gotten lazier because I get more interested in the composition of like the sonic aspect than like the lyrical aspect because I have to do all of it now.
Right. So you need to have that balance between the two of you to really combine those things.
Totally. And I put together a band now where we sit in a rehearsal space and vibe off each other. It's not at all me. It's not me rapping at all. I don't want to rap in a live band because you have tendencies to veer into jam bandish stuff where it's like the band, if they're good as musicians, they can keep playing.
Right.
But if you're out of raps, that means you're going to be ad-libbing. And if you're not incredible at ad-libbing, you're going to be using stock words and it's going to turn into a funky jam band thing, which I'd rather put the fucking Mossberg in my mouth than...
Yeah, you're too sophisticated for that shit, you know? Like,
it's not in me. Yeah,
right.
It's not in me. Like,
plus it could compromise the legacy, too, of Grand Buffet. You should explore other stuff, man. You are, like, you know, a true artist. I mean, you should be able to kind of dabble in wherever your mind leads you, you know?
Totally. Like, nobody has heard this band's music yet because I'm not ready to put it out yet. But when we do, it's going to be for individuals, like, making music. And sonically, it will be more like post-punk.
Cool.
It'll be me singing and doing, like, synth treatments, a synth player, a really good drummer, really good bass player.
Dope.
And I want to be in a gang. I want to be in a band that gives 100% and just fucking throws down with nothing other than reputation as being good at being us, like as the reward. If money comes from that, cool. But all I want to do is like have a band that I'm psyched to be in, and that was always the thing with GB, you know, where we would bleed on stage to just throw down for our set in that, like, all we have is a fucking disc player. Sometimes we have a DJ, like DJ Jester was
right, DJ
our
Jester.
Longest running. Yeah, shout out DJ Jester, wonderful cat, the nicest member of Grand Buffet. Right. The most easy to get along with and well-known member of Grand Buffet, I would say.
Yeah, well, I love it, man. I mean, you know, I've always been a huge fan, and I know, like, you know, we haven't seen each other in a while, so I definitely appreciate you just, like, making time and finding the time. I'm so glad I could find you and locate you.
Yes.
That was the first challenge.
It's been a minute, and I'm glad that you have kind of like a little Pittsburgh awakening happening as far as your map goes. For sure. I would say folks that are fans of Grand Buffet, in between time I've been doing anything that I've made has come out under the Mrs. Paintbrush moniker, which is just the name of all the bedroom, like, pop and lo-fi kind of hip-hop tracks that I do.
Yeah, which you've had for some years now. Right?
Yeah, so it's been about like a fucking decade.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I put fuck all into it as far as marketing. I put out one, like, professional video where like it's a cohesive thing.
What song is that? Or what was it called?
Mr. Fiddlesticks. If you've not seen it, fuck with it. It would fit very well on one of your video comps. The story behind that is I'm a supplement buyer, so when I inherited that position, there were thousands of dollars worth of expired supplements. So I was like, I need to write a tune about fake drugs, fake street drugs, to use them in this video where I can, like, unload all of these fucking pills. And it coincided with like the rise of, like, mumble, you know, core, like, MC shit going on. So I was like, I'm just going to do a nonsensical rap. And it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, peep that. It's called Mr. Fiddlesticks. But, yeah, all the Mrs. Paintbrush stuff, there are people that don't know anything about Grand Buffet from around like Europe and the UK and the States and Canada that are downloading the stuff or ordering like the physical CD or the posters and things like that.
Mrs. Paintbrush?
Of Mrs. Paintbrush.
Wow.
So it's been cool getting fans that don't know who the fuck I am. They just stumble across my stuff. Half the time, by the way, of tropical goth being my description on Bandcamp, which is the sole avenue to listen to the Mrs. Paintbrush stuff, because I don't fuck with SoundCloud.
Right.
I hate all the debris that is on the page.
Yeah.
With Bandcamp, you can just have your shit without advertisements. So like,
right.
I'm a complete dumbass. Like, if it doesn't fit with me aesthetically, I won't jump on any trains, even if it would be better career-wise. So I have no inclination when I'm making music to please anybody. So when I do get off my ass to like put something out, it's purely because I'm entertained by the stuff. And because of that, I like what I'm doing, and people can fuck with my stuff and spend a couple bucks on it, knowing that I'm not trying to like get a hot iTunes song. Fuck iTunes categorically. Like, just know that if you liked any of the stuff that I've done in Grand Buffet, like, I'm still pretty much that same fucking dumbass. And ain't a damn thing changed.
Oh, that's what's up, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, man. It's great to talk to you, dude.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
What did that clock in at?
90 minutes.
Okay, Jesus Christ. One fucking shot of espresso.
That'll do it, yeah. Wow, that was awesome and amazing. And amazingly awesome, and I really appreciate Jackson taking his time to talk to me on the House List. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, my part 1 of my 2-parter on the incredible, undeniable, irreplaceable, unfuckwittable Grand Buffet. If you want to check out Jackson's solo output as Mrs. Paintbrush is at Bandcamp, like he had said. The best way to check out his shit is at Bandcamp. mrspaintbrush.bandcamp.com. Check it out. There's like 5 albums on there that you can check out. The dude is amazing. And while we were talking, well, one, we talked for like, an hour or two before we even started the episode. And then we went and like walked all through Pittsburgh after that and had this like great meal, like pierogies. And we talked about like health and well-being and supplements and my transplant and just like life on the road and coming off the road and growing up and getting older, and then we walked to the Carnegie Museum and I got then I took off, and it was awesome. The dude is cool. He's like a real thinking man's artist, and that part of Pittsburgh is so dope. That Bullet Shill, I like that area. It's cool. It's so like in the cut. I really, really enjoyed it and really enjoy doing these for you. So hopefully you like it. If you do, please subscribe on iTunes, rate it, and spread the word. Tell your friend about it. Knock on your neighbor's door and be like, yo, what's up? Hey, man, have you heard about this podcast? It's called The House List. I know there's 10 trillion podcasts to choose from, but here, check out this one. They just did something on Grand Buffet. Do you remember Grand Buffet? Of course I do. I love them. I just saw them in Toledo last month. And it's also on Stitcher, the Stitcher app, and SoundCloud.com. You can follow them on HouseListPod at Twitter. So, yes, many ways to listen to it, wherever you get podcasts. And like each and every episode, this has been edited and engineered by my man CJ Stewart out in Humboldt County, California. My name is Peter Agostin. Thank you so much. As we open the show with one of my favorite Grand Buffet tracks, Benjamin Franklin music, then I'm going to close this with one of these songs off of a Mrs. Paintbrush album. This album is called Duke 2, which you can find at Mrs. Paintbrush. That's MRS paintbrush.bandcamp.com. All right, y'all. I'll see you guys next week, and hopefully it's going to be the part 2 with Lord Grunge of Grand Buffet. Until next time, y'all. Peace. Later. I love Pittsburgh. See y'all. Bye.
peanut butter chews in the orange and black wax paper.
Those are dangerous, those are full of razor blades.
Candy in my pillowcase, watching it accumulate. 8 or 9 pound average in my glory days. Stamina was paramount back when I used to trick or treat. Soon as school would spit me out, I'd hit my house and I would eat leafy green vegetables to fortify myself with the fiber required to endure enough sugar to kill a baby tiger. Got so wired I could hear the fourth dimension. Picked up on all the sounds and kept the family pet's attention. Pressure from the church groups, bullies that want your candy and police that want to search you for alcohol and firecrackers. These are deciding factors on how to strategize your candy quest before it's active.
Halloween is cool, I use candy as my fuel to go out and get more candy, and I bet I'll get a few of those peanut butter chews in the orange and black wax paper.
Those are dangerous, those are full of razor blades.
Too old to trick or treat now. People would think I was a creep, plus I'm a candy snob now. Most of that shit I wouldn't eat. Excessive doses of fructose are corrosive. Too much of it and you'll end up in realms where the ghosts live. And that's essentially what Halloween's about. Keep on eating up that candy, keep the Jesus lovers out.
Halloween is cool, candy is my fuel.
How much you gonna get?
Bet I get a few peanut butter chews, orange and black wax paper. Halloween is cool, I use candy as my fuel to go out and get more candy, and I bet I'll get a few of those peanut butter chews in the orange and black wax paper.
Those are dangerous, those are full of razor blades.